Is day trading ethical? Day trading is bad for your soul. This is a conversation about people, morality, contribution, stress, and what makes life feel healthy and meaningful. I'm not judging people who day trade. I don't think trading is wrong by default. I'm sharing what I've observed over many years. For over 20 years, I worked as an educator, and during that time, I met thousands of people. Long before I ever traded myself, I happened to personally know 9 full-time day traders. One of them seemed calm and healthy. The other 8 were constantly stressed in fight or flight. The first time I noticed this was when I was 21. I met a woman named Sue at the nonprofit where I worked. Right away, she looked tense, flushed face, wide eyes, like she was waiting for something bad to happen. We were in a library one day and she was facing away from me. I wanted to ask her something and I lightly tapped her shoulder so I wouldn't disturb the room, and she flinched hard and sucked in a breath like I had scared her, yelling boo. And this wasn't a one-time thing. She was always like that. Later, I found out she was a full-time trader with no other profession. After that, I met a guy named Scott who had the exact same nervous energy, constant tension, blushed face, twitchy movements. He didn't drink or use drugs. He was just permanently in fight or flight mode. He was also a full-time trader. 6 others showed very similar stress patterns. One man named Robert looked polished and calm on the outside, expensive suits, perfect hair, controlled movements. But underneath, he had a shaky hands and nervous twitches kind of thing going on. The only trader I knew who didn't seem like this was a guy named Barry. And the difference was that after trading each day, he spent his afternoons volunteering with scouts. That stood out to me. All of this happened years before I ever traded, when I was working full-time at a nonprofit. Since then, I've worked with thousands of traders directly or indirectly, and I've seen the same themes repeat. I'm not saying trading automatically causes stress, but it made me ask a deeper question. Why did the people whose lives revolved entirely around trading seem so tense, and why did the ones who spent time contributing to others seem balanced? Over decades of working with people, I noticed something consistent. People who were proud of what they contributed to their family, their job, or their community generally seemed healthier and more fulfilled. When you provide a service that helps others, both sides feel it. There's a sense of worth in being useful. Does that mean everyone with a meaningful job is happy? Of course not. But it does seem to improve the odds. On the other hand, there are ways to make money that don't really help anyone. Scamming, gambling, or just extracting value without creating anything. And then there's the opposite extreme, people who give everything for nothing. I saw that too in the nonprofit world. People who worked endlessly, lived poorly, and treated suffering like a virtue. One woman told me she survived on chimichangas from gas stations after decades of service. Admirable in some ways, but when I compared her to people who took care of themselves and were fairly compensated, those people contributed more effectively in my view. They had energy, health, and clarity. So I started thinking of life as a scale. On one end were people who take everything for nothing. On the other are people who give everything for nothing. Neither extreme seemed healthy to me. A life that combines contribution with responsible self-interest tends to work much better in my opinion and in my view. This is where trading fits into the moral conversation. I don't think trading is unethical by nature, but I do think there are factors that determine whether it becomes healthy or corrosive. The first is time. If someone spends 10 hours a day trading, that is pure extraction. There is very little room left for contribution to family, community, or anything else. From what I've seen, when trading becomes the entire focus of a person's day, something could erode internally. At the same time, ignoring money is not wise. Money loses value every year to inflation. If you want to support your family and your life properly, you have to manage money intelligently. Spending a small amount of time investing or trading responsibly makes sense. Spending all day doing it replaces contribution. That's why full-time day trading was never right for me. I wanted money to support life, not replace it. The second factor is risk and structure. Trading becomes destructive when there is no plan, no predefined risk, and no acceptance of losing days. Every real trader has losses. What destroys people is trading in a way where one bad day wipes out everything. If a strategy doesn't make money over time and requires constant new deposits just to stay alive, that's not trading, that's gambling. Sadly, that is what most people experience. Not because trading can't work, but because people chase shortcuts and quick wins. Shortcuts almost never work in any profession. The healthier approach is starting small, practicing with fake money, building consistency, and accepting slow progress. That's how real skill is built. The third factor is consistency. For trading to be sustainable, and I would argue ethical, it has to actually work over time, not overnight, but steadily. When you combine limited time, proper risk, real practice, and consistency, trading becomes a tool instead of an obsession. For me, that's what 20-minute trading became. A small structured part of the day that supports the rest of my life. For decades, I was on the opposite extreme, working very, very hard, making very, very little, and eventually ending up in deep debt. When I started watching charts, I wasn't looking for patterns, just observing. I noticed small, predictable movements that most people ignored. People told me it was impossible and that beginners couldn't do this. Eventually, I realized I didn't need to predict everything, just those small, consistent moves. That became the foundation of how I trade today. But the biggest lesson wasn't about charts, it was about balance. Trading itself isn't immoral, but trading that replaces contribution, ignores risk, and chases shortcuts tends to damage people. Trading that is limited in time, structured, practiced responsibly, and used to support a meaningful life can be very healthy. The real question isn't whether trading is good or bad, it's whether it supports a life of contribution or replaces it. That's how I look at it, and I do appreciate you listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss our live trading demonstrations and other cool videos. If you want to learn 20-minute trading, attend our free class where you can get your questions answered live. Link in the description. And I'll see you in the next video.